Imam in it, just in case the Imam makes.
Where's HDMI, bro?
Mr. Can you give the background, please? Can you give the background?
Yeah.
It's behind that pool table.
I don't know what.
Huh?
I can't find it.
What, HDMI? Is it, bro?
Speaker.
The speaker's in that room, innit?
Which part of that room? Our room, the cupboard.
Yeah, no, the background. Yeah, no.
Can you get it? Please, I mean, that's you do this, but.
We're not doing the tables and stuff, no?
What table?
Do tables in the back and that, yeah.
What table?
There were the tables behind that.
Oh, yeah.
The lights and all that.
Everything that's just going to be recording. Are you okay with my son, yeah? Oh,
Yeah, can you get a bit from the back? Yeah, yeah.
it's okay.
You get it?
بسم الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. We're getting into the habit of starting a bit late. I don't know why. I was here well before the class, but the brothers are not coming on time. So let's just start coming on time. 7:30 is our class. Jazakumullah khairan. No excuse for anybody except for myself. Last thing that we talked about is the zakah on the rikaz, the treasures, rikaz. And I have stopped on that, and I said we're going to be doing all of the zakah in 2 classes. It's not ideal, but we have to make sure that we pass on to the zakah in 2 sessions. Al-rikaz means the treasure which is being buried by the people of Jahiliyyah. So it's not the thing that you people, they look for treasures and gold at the moment in the mountains. That's not the one we're talking about. For whatever the people using these instruments to go and search gold into the mountains and the mines, that is not the rikaz. The rikaz is that something being buried by these people who are not Muslims, and there was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and they just find it without any effort, without any spending any money or manpower. He finds it, and straight away he pays 1/5 as in zakah, 1/5 of it. And it's not like we said before, it has to reach the nisab, the threshold, or it has to be for 1 year, if you remember those 2 conditions. Now this one, as soon as you find it, 1/5 of it goes into the zakah. Now, Jazakallah khair. Now, as for the where do you spend this, the 1/5 of this rikaz, this 1/5 of the rikaz is being given as in to the leader to decide. So to the leader to decide. And it's not like the zakah that we've been talking about into the agriculture or the kettles or the money, gold and silver. That is going to be now we're going to be talking about them, which is the 8 categories. But this one is to be decided by the leader or the person who is the caliphate or the person who is in charge. He will decide where we're going to put the outcome of that rikaz. As I said, rikaz is not the money that the people search and they find, and there are some people who are actually specified in these areas, and they bring machines and to find it. I don't know if you've heard about people as well finding jinn, protecting such a treasure, and it's true. That is true as well. And sometimes they seek the help of the sheikh to go and start reciting Quran before they dig the treasure out, otherwise they're going to be possessed. And that is true, by the way. It does happen. And then the sheikh starts having his share. طيب, the zakah, where is we supposed to give the zakah? Where do we suppose? So we said, you remember 2.5% from the gold and silver on the money? And we said as well from the kettles, and we counted from how many sheep and how many goats and how many camels and how many cows. Okay, where do we give the zakah to? The zakah is being documented in the Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 60. إنما الصدقات, verily the sadaqat, إنما أداة حصر, it is like limits the expansion or limit the expenditure of giving the sadaqat for those mentioned in the ayah, nobody else. إنما الصدقات, verily the zakah is to be given to the following categories: للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. Those are the ones, the 8 categories. I'm going to translate them in a minute, one by one. So those are the 8 categories. And when we mention the 8 categories, it doesn't mean that we have to suffice the 8 categories. So if I got my zakah, I have to give to these 8 categories. No. You could give to one of them. You could give to 2 of them. And it's going to be very hard for the people to find these 8 categories all the time to give their zakat. And I'm saying this because as well as some scholars who said, now you have to accommodate and encompass all these 8 categories, which is not a strong opinion. And I'm saying this because, as I said, it's a controversial. So the title in this book, which is Al-Wajiz, says, هل يجب استيعاب هذه الأصناف? Is it a must upon us to encompass for all of these categories? The correct opinion, no, we don't. See, as I said, some of them, they said, like Imam Shafi'i said, you have to. Right. Let's talk about the 8 categories. Number 1, al-fuqara. Number 2, al-masakin. We translate them the poor, they translate the indigent. I don't understand in English who's poor, the poor or the indigent, and what is the difference between them. I don't have a conclusion regarding this issue. If anybody wants to help me with this, it's up to him. Poor and indigent. I don't know. But I'll tell you, poor and masakin. The scholars had differed who is poorer than the other. Well, to start with, the verse started with the fuqara. Then the fuqara is poorer than the masakin. That's to start with. But there are some scholars who said the miskin is poorer than the fuqara. And the other distinguishing fact between them, that one of them is he does not ask the people at all. تحسبهم أغنياء من التعفف. You think that they are rich because they don't ask. And the other one, sometimes he does not ask and sometimes he asks. Now, which one is which? Controversial. We believe, Allahu A'lam, that the correct opinion is al-fuqara, because they are the poorer, and those are the ones who normally they don't ask. You have to search for them. He could be sitting next to you and you never thought he is poor. You never thought. It doesn't cross your mind. Because he's dressed up like you, he comes and eats food and all of that, but he never gave you a hint until you dug deeper. Oh, I didn't know that you're in need. He'll be shocked. And you will be you'll be sort of, I would say, pushed from inside to give this person. Because he's not asking you. How, subhanAllah, I've been with you all the time, you don't ask. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask because he's shy. So the fuqara and the masakin. How much do we give them? We could give them as much as to suffice them for 1 year. To suffice them for 1 year. طيب. Here we have a hadith. Ubaydullah ibn Adi ibn al-Khayyat. He said that the 2 men told him that they came to the Prophet ﷺ asking for sadaqah. So the Prophet of Allah, he started looking at them like this to size them up, looking at them like that, up and down. Then he saw them and you're fit. So he said, well, if you wish, I'll give you. Because you've asked for it, I will give you. But there is no portion in this money for the person who is strong, who can earn, or the person who is rich. So if it's a person who is rich, you're not supposed to take from the zakah. And the person who is fit and he's earning and he can earn, but he doesn't want to earn, he should not be taken from the zakah. I mean, we should not be having people on the dole. Huh? You be on the dole if you are in need, if you can't work. But to work as not working, do you understand me? I'm working, what? On the dole. I just go to the dole, receive the money, come back. And before, a long time ago, when the system was much easier than these days, the person would rather to sit at home and receive benefits rather than to go and work. If he works, it's not going to be as much. Okay? So you'll be surprised. I don't know if you are, but at my time, I remember when I came here to this country in 1982, the system was so easy that the person doesn't have to work. He just sits down and then receives money while he's doing nothing. So the Prophet was telling me there is no portion for you for that, if you are so. طيب. The third one, al-amiluna alayh, the one who distribute the zakah. So those are the one assigned, deputized by the ministry of whatever ministry, zakah, endowments, ministry of religion, to go and collect the sadaqah. It's not the money we said, it's not the property as in gold and silver, it is to do with the cattle, the crops, and which is something which you can see. Cattle that would come and count, and also the dates and all of that. The fourth one, المؤلفة قلوب. المؤلفة قلوبهم is more than one category. One who reconciling his heart, softening his heart. These are the ones who they are Muslims, but their Islam is not strong. And we're giving them to strengthen their Islam because they are very important to the Muslim state, because they are leaders of tribes. If they stay Muslim, then we will guarantee that their power will be with us, not against us. So this is to be given to the ones who are just entered Islam and their Islam is not weak, is not strong enough. So we're trying to strengthen their Islam by giving them the money. It's not a bribe, but basically because, those people who are in charge of money, they don't want to be showing themselves going into work which is low work. They want to show that they are, head of a tribe. They have a prestige, basically. So those are the ones we give them the money. The other category is non-Muslims. Non-Muslims who happens to be as well strong, and if he enters Islam, it's good for us to become a Muslim. So he's about to enter Islam. This is the only category from the zakah where we could give to non-Muslims. So one, which is he's entered Islam. And by the way, this can be given to any person who enters Islam because, when the person enters Islam, ya Ikhwani, he's going to boycott himself. He's going to sever his kinship, isn't he? He's going to be disowned by his parents, by family, by society, especially if she's a sister. Especially if she puts that flag, which is the scarf, straight away. She will be maybe kicked out of the work. She could be vulnerable. So this is a portion from the zakat to tell these people, don't worry. If you have been hit hard financially, we are there to help you because it's incumbent upon us. This is part of our money, is for you. So we can give it to those people. As I said, those people enter Islam, some of them, they are vulnerable. And if they find themselves in so much need and nobody's helping them, that makes a shaitan, maneuver a lot and might convince them to go back to what they were before Islam. So this is very important portion. And now the scholars have differed. Is there any mu'allafa qulubuhum after the Prophet's death or not? Is this just at the time of the Prophet of Allah? The Prophet of Allah given it to those people? Because we have Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu at his time, he said, Islam is so powerful now. We don't need those people. If you want to enter Islam, it's up to you. You enter it. We don't need to go and give you money to go and enter Islam. So Ibn Khattab, he had abolished that. And so that's why we say the difference among the scholars. And the correct opinion is actually they still can be given because the Prophet ﷺ had given those people after the conquering of Mecca. So after Mecca was being conquered and regained, repossessed by the Muslims, Islam became strong. And yet the Prophet of Allah gave to Safwan ibn Umayyah. Safwan ibn Umayyah, he was not Muslim. And he used to hate the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave him so much that he came to the Prophet of Allah and said, Prophet of Allah, your face was the most disliked face for me. Now you became the most loved person to me. Your deen was the most hated deen for me. Now your deen, which is Islam, is the most beloved religion to my heart. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ became so dear to him because of he had given him so much. When he went, the Prophet of Allah, when he entered Mecca, 1 month later, those people who are in Hawazin and Thaqif, in a place called Hunayn, they have gathered themselves to attack. They are from At-Ta'if, that area. They wanted to attack the Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ, he got the same 10,000 who entered Mecca to go and fight this battle. Only 1 month. And also with them, there were 2,000. They just entered Islam recently. These were the ones who came to Islam as soon as the Prophet of Allah had put Mecca under his control. So there were 12,000. Now, 12,000, not all of them are equipped with arms and with the artilleries and all of that, like for example, spears and shields and all of this. Safwan ibn Umayyah had. So the Prophet went to him and said to him, now we want to borrow from you shields and spears and all of this. He said, A'ariyatun mu'adda, is it like a borrowal that you're going to give it back? Or that's it, you're going to take it from me and you're not going to give it back? Because he's in control, the Prophet of Allah. So you're going to be, because he's still a kafir, remember. Are you going to be giving it back to me? And so the Prophet said, A'ariyatun mu'adda. We will borrow it and give it to you. So he borrowed it, those arms, and he came. Of course, when you borrow something and you use for war, you're not going to give it the same. Give it the same, is it? It's like, for example, he's going to give you a shining spear, and then he's going to come, mashallah, shining. You're going to use it for the war, isn't it? It's going to have scratches and all of that, especially as well the shield and all this. So the Prophet ﷺ had borrowed that, and when he came back from the battle, he gave him this and so much extra as a bonus. And that's why he became sort of, listen, that this person is in charge. He had the option, he had the power to take these things without giving me anything. He gave them back to me and even extra. He gave me extra from the money. So he gave him so much that he came to the Prophet of Allah. He became the most dearest person to me when you were the most hated person to me. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used part of the money of the zakah to reconcile or to soften the hearts of those people. Fifth one, وفي الرقاب. Okay, في الرقاب means to free the slaves. The three ways of doing that. Either you have a slave and set him free, and that's called as well from the zakah, or you buy a slave from somebody and then set him free, also zakah, or you help a slave to make mukataba, to make a deal with his owner. So let's say, for example, a slave, he has the right to make mukataba. He says to his master, I want to set myself free. How much do I worth? So he says to him, well, okay, 5,000. Okay, he makes a deal 5,000. So he has to bring now 5,000 to his master to set him free. So he goes to you and you have portion of zakah. Yeah. Give him zakah from that money in order to help him, either the full money, if your zakah, mashallah, is a lot, or some of it to set him free, and that is part of the zakah. So we've got now 5. Fuqara, masakin, poor, indigent, al-amilina alayha, the one who worked to collect the zakah. And by the way, the ones who work to collect the zakah, the one we designated. Let's say, for example, we are a charity, and we are saying that this person wants to send him to go and give zakah. Would like him to be a volunteer. Very few volunteers would do such a thing, because he wants to go. Now, I would say to him, yes, go. And it's like a worker. How much do you work here? How much? We will give him from that zakah, part of it, because he is distributing this money. So if he takes it in a halal way, he wants as well another person to help him. We will pay that person as well. He wants to sit in a hotel, not 5-star hotel, normal hotel. 5-star hotel, you take it with the zakah, remember. In your own pocket, do it. But, a normal, decent hotel, even it's 1 star. Because you want to minimize the expenses that you're going to have. So you imagine that this person going to give 5,000 to the poor people, and then he gives no penny, he's giving 100. Why? I've used 4,900 for myself. Well, I would say rather sit home, brother. Don't really go and distribute the sadaqah. Fine. 4th one, reconciling the half. 5th one, for freeing the slave. 6th one, the gharimun, the one who are in debt. Now, the one in debt are also of categories. So, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ tells us what are these categories, which is hadith Qabisa ibn Mukhariq al-Hilali. He said, تحملت حمالة. What is تحملت حمالة? Meaning, I have incurred upon myself the debt of somebody else. How? So let's say, for example, a person killed another person. Let's say. And those people, okay, settled for the blood money. The blood money was 100,000 pounds. These people, they can't get the 100,000 pounds. It's too much for them. So this person, in order to stop the shed of blood between them, because there will be some vendetta and revenge and all of this, he would say, okay, the 100,000 pound is on me. So this person would be well known. He could be rich. He could be what? Rich. And even the more richer he is, the better it is, because the people, oh, thank you very much for taking the 100,000 upon me, and I will get it. So this is called tahammala hamala. He had taken the burden of the debt of somebody. And this has been encouraged by Islam, because it will stop the bloodshed. So this person is entitled to come now to the charities, unto the masjid. Brothers, I want to ask for your zakah. So he's rich. He doesn't have to pay a penny from his own money. But he's collecting your own zakah to settle what? The debt of other people. Do you understand that? So this is one of the 5 people whom the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تحل صدقة لغني إلا لخمسة. That the zakah cannot be given to a rich person except for 5 categories. One of them is what? This person. تحمل حمالة. He's rich. And he has taken on his burden to reconcile between these 2 people. Okay, I will collect the 100,000. So he went to the masjid, brothers, give me. And when the person rich, people will give, because they feel that he's not going to take it to his pocket. He's got, mashallah, a lot of money, but he is helping to get the 100,000. Okay? So he doesn't have to pay a penny himself. His job, what he's doing, is enough just to collect the money. So that's called tahammaltu hamal. So, Messenger of Allah, I have taken the burden of debt. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, okay, sit, pot, and wait until the sadaqah comes, zakah comes from other people, and we will give you some of that. So then he said, O Qabisa, Prophet ﷺ said, O Qabisa, for verily, asking for money, it is not permissible except for 3 categories. One of them is, which is yourself, rajulun tahammala hamala, person taking the burden of debt of other people. So zakah is allowable to be given to collect, and he is allowed to ask the people to give until he had finished collecting the money that he is in need of. Second one, a person or a category of a person whom he had something came to his crops, something came to his cattle, that where people can see and there was nothing there. Like, for example, wind destroyed all his crops, weather or a flood killed all his cattle. Okay, so we call it ja'iha, a crisis, taking all of his money. So we will give him from the zakah. He's allowed to ask. And the person whom has been having faqa. Faqa, it is again a crisis, but in Arabic the difference between faqa and ja'iha is that the faqa is something which people don't know about it, because it's not to do with cattle, people can see them dead, or with crops where people can see it has been ruined. It is something to do with, financial money, like he's been robbed, or some fraud took place on him, and he's now bankrupt. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ, he said, them 3 people from his own tribe, from his own clan, from his own family, 3 people who are قال من ذوي الحجة, got common sense. Those people are known to be prudent. Those people known to be sedate. Those people known are to be sensible. These noble people are senior. So 3 senior people. Then they will testify that this person had correctly and truly been struck with such a calamity, meaning that he had his money been robbed, or he had fraud, something happened to him, something which people cannot know except these 3 people stood and make an oath that he had, or they had testified that this person truly is in need. Then Prophet ﷺ said, other than those 3 people, whoever takes it, then he takes suht. Suht, which is haram money. Taking haram money. That's the 6th category. Now the 7th category is fi sabilillah. Fi sabilillah. Fi sabilillah, ikhwani, is not an open check for everybody to say, oh, I'm building a school. Can I give me zakah fi sabilillah? No, it's not. I'm not allowed to give you to build a school from the zakah. You understand that? There's no money to be paid to build the zakah. I've got an orphanage. I want to build an orphanage. I want to buy books for the orphans. Can I pay from the zakat? No. Pay from the sadaqah, but not from the zakat. The zakat has got these categories only. What about, he's poor, he's, orphan is poor. Well, then if he's poor, you give him the money and he decides whether he wants to buy books or build his own school. It's up to him. You give him that person because that money belongs to him. It's not for you to decide whether you're going to build him a house or you're going to build him a school or you're going to give him a rubber and a pencil and a book. No, it's for him. It's his money. So no zakat to be given. So somebody goes, more orphans and orphanage. We don't give zakat. Give sadaqah. Oh, we give us because of people wants to get married. Oh, get married, jazakallahu khairan. We'll give you sadaqah, but we'll give you zakat. Can't give zakat unless he is from the 8 categories. So fi sabilillah, it is not a stretched term that accommodates. Then what's the point of mentioning the first categories? If fi sabilillah everything, building a school, building a university, building a masjid, you can't build a masjid from the zakat. So fi sabilillah is jihad. Whether it is money you give, or you designate a camel, or you designate a car, or you designate a gun, designate whatever it is. Fi sabilillah. So you give it from the zakah, money, and this money you purchasing things that the mujahideen they need, or they're giving it to those people, to the people who are in charge of this army to look after that. This is the zakah. So the army will be equipped also from the people who are helping, because there's a portion in the money of the people to be given to those soldiers. So you could give the mount, or you could give the clothes of that person, get him ready by paying the zakah. Fi sabilillah, also another dimension for it is al-hajj. Why? Because of the following hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to make the hajj, and this is the only hajj. A woman, she came to her husband. She said, dear husband, I want to make hajj with the Prophet along with you, because he's making the hajj. So he said, I don't have anything to make you hajj with me. I don't have your amount to make hajj. So he came to the Prophet. He said, Messenger of Allah, oh verily, my wife, she's saying salam to you. Inna imra'ati taqra'u alayka salam. She said, Salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And she had asked me that she wants to make hajj with you. So she said to me, make me to make hajj with the Prophet of Allah. So I said to her, I don't have a mount to provide you in order to do so. So she said, okay, well, make me to have hajj on your such and such camel. She gave the name of the camel. So she knows that he's got a camel, spare camel. So he said to her, so I said to her, Messenger of Allah, this has been locked for jihad. This has been what? Designated for the jihad. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said to him, verily, if you had accepted to make her to do hajj on that camel, then it will be considered in sabilillah. So if you have given her that camel, which you have given to the jihad, you gave it to her to ride the camel to make hajj, then it's going to be considered fi sabilillah. So we got to widen the dimension of the fi sabilillah. So jihad and also hajj. Last one is Ibn Sabil. What is Ibn Sabil? The wayfarer, they call it. Traveler. Now the scholars had no problem to say, and consensus as well, that he is the person who traveled already and he is in a land which is stranded. He can't go back because he hasn't got the money. Or maybe he's got money at home, but he hasn't got access to take that money. You understand that? I mean, in these days, it's very, very hard to imagine it, because everything can be accessed with mobiles and all of that. But let's say this person is being robbed from all of it. He hasn't got any access to it. He's got rich. He's a rich person, okay, at home. He's a rich person at home. He's allowed to take zakah in order to go. Now, scholars had said, okay, he's got 2 options. He could borrow the money and say to the person, I'm going to give you the money once I reach home or to take the zakah. Which one is better, Ikhwani? Is it to borrow the money or to take the zakah to take the money? He's entitled for the zakah. Huh? Huh? Take the zakah. So you think like Bill Gates will take a zakah? Borrow, of course. Of course, it's borrow. Because the upper hand is better than the what? The lower hand. He will borrow. When he borrows, he will find himself, he's on top of himself. He's not putting himself into like, give me, give me. So he will borrow the money, I'll give it back. Now, also the scholars had differed. Is he allowed to have the zakah even if he's rich? And that's as I said, because he's not mentioned in the 5 rich people are entitled for the zakah. He's not mentioned there. He's one of the 5. He's not one of the 5. The other difference among the scholars, he wants to initiate a journey. He's in homeland, but he wants to go for necessity. Do I give him or not? That's zakah or not. So he's initiating a journey, a traveling. We say, well, let's say that this person, his mother died, his father died. He's not poor, but to buy the ticket, he hasn't got the money. He is poor. Do you understand me? The ticket costs him £1,000 return. Can I give him the zakah? Correct opinion, yes. So the wayfarer, there's no definition from the Prophet ﷺ. We cannot just limit it to the person who's been cut from homeland, even if he's in home, but he hasn't got the money to initiate a very important journey. He needs to do this journey. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Prophet ﷺ, he said, as-sadaqah is not to be given, or is not fit to be given to rich people except for 5. The one who is working on distributing the zakah. He could be rich, but he's entitled because he's working. He could be rich, but I'm going to designate myself for you because you are designating me. You are employing me to go and give what? This zakah distributed. So from the zakah, we could give him as well. From the zakah, we could give him what? That money. So this is a person who's rich, is entitled for the zakah. Second one is the person who is, remember, the one who had taken the burden of what? Of a debt. He's rich, but he wants to take the burden of debt, especially the big debts, in order to reconcile. As well, he's allowed. Thirdly, that the person who is making jihad fi sabilillah. So he is rich, but he's entitled to have zakah from other people to be in the jihad. Fourthly, a person who is a poor person and he's being given zakah. Okay? And this, from that, he gave hadiyah to a rich person. So it is money, which is zakah, is being given to a poor person. And this person took part of it and gave you as a hadiyah, and you are a rich person. You're allowed to take it. Do you understand me? Person who's poor received zakah. From that zakah, he gave portion of that to a rich man as a hadiyah. It is zakah, and it's given to the rich person, but not directly from the person who's giving the zakah, indirectly. Comes to my mind one of as an example of this, Burra. Yes. Burra is a slave woman whom she's to be slave for Aisha radiallahu anha. You know that the Prophet ﷺ, on all the Sayyid family, the ones who are from the Bani Hashim, okay, from the Prophet of Allah, they're not allowed to take zakah or sadaqah. Because these are the dirty money of the people. They're not allowed to take sadaqah and zakah. If they are poor, they have to be given a specific, like, designated salary for them. So that's why the Prophet of Allah, one day he saw, saying he's trying to take a date from the floor. He said, "You're a kid." That means what? Don't take it. Why? Because it could be sadaqah. That date could be sadaqah. So he did not allow even little kid to take that date. Sadaqah. So it's not allowed. So the Prophet ﷺ is not allowed to have any sadaqah or zakah. One day, Aisha radiallahu anha, she had some meat. So the Prophet ﷺ